Hello and welcome to the fifth season of the All Humans Are Human podcast. Welcome to the ninth episode of the Charge C series. Today, I am so grateful I get to be here with Serena Blessed. We're going to get into many titles and discussions about titles and all of the things and charge. And we got a lot of fun topics to dive into. So we're going to dive right in. Thank you so much for being here. Very excited to record. Very
Yeah, thanks for having me, honey.
How how would you like to start with if somebody didn't know anything about you or what kind of if you were I know it was a big question of if you were introducing yourself, like what kind of labels?
Well, I'm an occult specialist, so what I do is I really deal with energy. And yes, you hear that all the time with energy and light workers. Girl, I ain't no light worker. All right. So light workers tend to, and it is my issue with the term light worker, is people don't realize that to deal with the light is to deal with masculine energy, to deal with the dark is feminine energy, right? And when people are demonizing the dark, they are actually demonizing the feminine. And you need the feminine. The feminine is what nurtures you. The feminine is what births you. When you have a worker like me, I work with both hands because I hate the terms light and dark. They actually have been heavily racialized throughout the centuries. So when you're dealing with someone like me, I deal with both my left hand, which is the dark energy, and my right hand, which is the light energy. People don't realize even what's going on right now with Donald Trump and all the rest of this is that's all part of the light. The light likes to create structures. It is very hierarchical. It is very male energy. So when you are dealing with someone like me, I am a conjure woman. I am a bruja. I am a priestess. And I just basically go in there and I figure out what's blocking you. I figure out what's in your way. I figure out how to get you where you need to go. And that is what I do.
Amazing. That's so cool, the
So yeah,
description too. I'd never connected it with the yin yang, light dark, and the light and dark energy and working and all of that. And
hmm,
very cool. Very cool. And this is a great time too, and
yeah,
all the information in the description to plug your tarot readings for people who are interested so they can reach out to you or other kinds of work
absolutely,
they can connect.
absolutely. And just in case we have questions, etc., I do have my cards here just in case. But yeah, no, I do readings for everything. People come to me for love and sex and marriage the most, but I will say, I do readings for all kinds of blockages. I I I have been really honored to work with a lot of SWs in their lives and in their practice as well. So
That's amazing. That's
yeah,
and you're welcome to say sex and fuck shit damn and all the things on the recording, but no pressure also. But say whatever, no need to censor. I know
well, thank you.
it's hard to know when
Well, no,
to
I
pause
wasn't.
or
I'm just a lady.
but yes, your body, your choice for all.
I'm just a lady. Um,
Your body for yes, I love that. How did you first get into readings? When did you first start, or how did you first, or what was that like, your first one?
oh, well, my grandmother was a reader. Actually, my grandmothers, they ran competing occult shops down the street from each other. And on my black side, they have been doing readings since the 1700s. We are an old family, an old New Orleans family. Um, and it's the voodoo and hoodoo that I do are old school voodoo and hoodoo. I'm not playing, these newfangled games. I don't have time for that. Um, so, I'm just really old school in the way that I go about things, honestly.
There is,
So I've been doing it my whole life, really.
wow, that's amazing too. And in your whole epigenetics and ancestry, and that it's so deeply in there is, I love.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because on the other side, like I'm also I'm also indigenous, Jewish, etc. So my ancestors who were Jewish, they escaped the Inquisition around the 15th or 16th century. They were apothecaries and doctors and witches, which that really was kind of all the same thing, especially for women at the time, because we were talking about the women in the family, not the men. Um, and they actually fled the Spain area and then they went down into Mexico. Unfortunately, the Inquisition followed them into Mexico.
Wow. Wow.
So people don't realize that the Inquisition did not stop until the 20th century in Mexico.
I didn't realize, definitely not. It's interesting too with what you said about
No, yeah.
yes, and it I can imagine that putting things more into the dark and into maybe more secret or hidden practices or needing to go about things in different ways because of that.
Yes, well, that's why what we're called converso or conversa. It means to cut to cover, essentially. To cover or to convert. Because it looked like we were practicing Christianity when in fact we were practicing old school Judaism and indigenous practices.
So interesting, and it's also
So yeah.
I feel like that pattern in history happens so much of culture being attempted to be suppressed in some way, and that's not how culture works. That's not how humanity works. It's still going to be there.
That's not how humans.
Oh, what?
hmm Well, you see it all the time. You see it all the time. With, for instance, you may be familiar with the goddess Guadalupe. Guadalupe on the Mound is what she's called in Mexico, right? But she comes from the Aztec goddess or the Nahuatl goddess, um, Swahilupe. And Swahilupe and Guadalupe look almost the exact same. The only difference is she's wearing Mary's face, like literally. Usually, Mary is not seen with a spear, like you know, spearing dragons. That's not usually her thing. But Swahilupe, it's tons of roses and then spearing dragons at her feet. That is a Noah's goddess right there, and people don't realize that, like, or even like, let's go with a white example. Breed, right? Breed of the Tuatha, right? From Ireland. You've probably heard about Saint Bridget. She is the old Irish goddess Breed. Breed's well, and it's funny because Breed was a goddess who, you know, honestly, she was the head of the Tuatha in Ireland, which is the gods of Ireland, and then she became Saint Bridget. And it's funny because when Irish people came over to New Orleans, right, and you had Breed, um, what you had is she became part of voodoo. She became Mama Brigitte. So there's one white Loa, and that Loa is Mama Brigitte. And she comes from Breed of the Tuatha. It is because the Irish people and the Creole people were working in tandem, and she joined that pantheon as well. So she's not part of one pantheon; she's part of three. So it's you've got this white redhead amongst all these black folks in voodoo.
I had no idea, and I definitely am much too Jewy. I didn't know about the that, but I definitely didn't know about then the overlap or where it all connects
Oh
there.
yeah, oh yeah. You see, and even Judaism makes there is a lot of Jewish magic that takes place in hoodoo. Like there is so much overlap of these cultures where we have helped each other, and then we said, oh well, I know this for this, so let's add it here. And before you know it, that's what it is.
Yes. This is one of my favorite things about your perspective and one of the things I learn from the most, or even this that I had no idea about all of the different, I gotta go nerd later on those different archetypes and the different things, but about, I love how you see how things come together and support each other and how it's how
hmm
are we actually working together here? How can we help in a very real way, like not in the it's all love and light, sunshines and roses, in the very tangible, what are the things I have that you need? What are the things that you have that I need? How can we genuinely
come
symbiote?
together and defeat this villain. Because here's the thing, the villain pops up in different places. Right now, like before, like the villain was um very much took part against the Ashkenazi community. The Ashkenazi community since has been harmed since the Holocaust, right? Because originally it rose up, the dark, or I won't even say the dark, the because really, again, it's the light that chooses to regulate, that chooses to moderate, that chooses like it's so gets so confusing. But the ugly, we'll call it the ugly rose up against the Jewish Ashkenazi community in Germany. But can I just say, it's always bugged me that we forget about all the other survivors when we talk about that. There were so, I believe there were, I want to say there were 12 million people. You could, don't quote me on this. I think there's 6 million Ashkenazi Jewish people that died. And that is valid. And I never, ever, ever, and I want to be so clear on this, I never want to take away from that sacrifice. And I call it a sacrifice because they were sacrificed to the ugly. You know what I mean? And that is not okay. It is not okay. So I am not trying to put any anti-Semitic um and be in any way anti-Semitic. However, and also there were 6 million, if I'm correct on my
Just as
numbers,
many.
other people, Romani people, black people. People don't realize that yes, there were black people and black mixed people.
Yep.
Um, Trans people, queer people, Catholic people, socialists, and I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, who were also, and that's kind of like what drives me crazy a little bit. Even as like a Jewish girl, I'm like, okay, valid, right? I'm Sephardi, not Ashkenaz, but still, okay, no one's taking away from, but like, even if you go to the museum, it's quotes the 6 million, not the 12 million.
It's so there's so many other layers to that and connected parts too, that there's if people were gonna make it just a numbers game, which makes me think of whatever quote about how when it becomes just numbers, our minds tune it out versus if we know a real person's story, we feel it more. There's genocides with way bigger casualty numbers and way more harm and destruction and violence. And again, none of them are taking away from and ranking the violence, ranking the ugly is impossible
Uh-huh.
probably, and also unproductive and not something that actually changes it. To me, it's a classic kind of a intentional or otherwise manipulation that then people are pouring all this energy into fighting over, like this was ugly or that was ugly, or oh it's because of this or that, rather than how do we actually change, like okay there's
Yes.
this ugly
I
energy,
mean,
this charge here's gross, like what do we do, how do we change it?
well, and here's what I bring it up. I bring it up not to compare tragedy, but to just remember tragedy accurately. There weren't 6 million deaths. There were 12. That's that's a huge block of numbers to just, and I would rather honor all 12 million than just half. Like that angers me in a place that I can't even describe. Um, were there bigger genocides? Oh yeah, there's bigger genocides going on right now. Um, like, are the numbers on Palestine? I don't know the numbers on Palestine currently, but they're large. They're large.
And
They're
all
large,
is
and
understand.
that's without getting into the Black genocide, and that's without getting into the Native genocide, which we are still doing. When we are rounding up these folks that we call immigrants. Although, how are we Mexican people immigrants on land that we are indigenous to?
Native Americans, literally North America by definition. Yeah. Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. So it's I don't know. I point is, and my original point was simply the ugly will pop up differently. At first, it started against the Ashkenaz. Then I feel like the culture, um, definitely because hurt people. Now they are committing hurt. Um, and I don't want to say the Ashkenazi people as a whole, because that is not to equate Israel with Ashkenazi people globally is anti-Semitic. I'm not trying to say that. I'm trying to say that Israel is overwhelmingly Ashkenaz dominant, um, and it's a white supremacy problem. We've got a white supremacy problem
Absolutely. Oh,
within the
I
Jewish diaspora.
deeply. I agree with all of this. As a Jew who was bat mitzvahed and who turned down all of the birthright trips because it felt like such propaganda and all of the Jewish matchmaking, but also just propaganda for the very colonialist, very white supremacist, very capitalist patriarchal, all of the accurate buzzwords to this. Uh,
All the things.
all of the, yeah, all of the things that even to me, the any sorts of museums or publications that focus only on half of the 12 million versus the whole picture, to me, that's another form of propaganda. And like you said, it's a literal inaccurate representation of history that's propaganda by definition.
Well, and I consider anti-black. I consider it erasure. I consider anti-Roma. I consider it a very anti-queer propaganda. Um,
Well,
because
all of that.
they didn't anti-disability propaganda because
All
they came for disabled people first and trans people first. They did not come for the Ashkenaz first. And um and I just and that's not to, again diminish what they did or what they had done to them, but it really does bother me the way that we tell this tale. It is not accurate. It is, and that inaccuracy, um, it bothers me because right now it is so relevant to what is going on in Petersville and what is going on here, right? It is accurate to how we are dealing with these G sides in these places.
Exactly. And it's the same textbook pattern of trans people and disabled people being the first to be victimized, othered, put down, put like it's following the same playbooks of like,
Yes.
oh, next we're gonna go for people who aren't from here, even though they are like it's
Yeah, except for here's what bothers me most is now our old allies, some of them have been propagandized into becoming our adversaries, and that bothers me.
hmm. How do you feel like that gets overcome? I totally and first also part like I hear you on that bother and that bother is so real and needs to be felt and sat with and also what is the because it's interesting as soon as I was asking that I'm almost seeing that connection in a way to tarot readings and to sex work and to other forms of things that help people connect to themselves and all forms of things in therapy realms. How do you see that being overcome?
Accurate conversations. The key to overcoming propaganda is having accurate conversations. Don't just look up your numbers once. Look them up 3 times. Look them up in 3 different places, and then have as accurate a conversation. And if someone corrects you on it, it's okay. It's all right. But like accurate conversations are huge, huge, huge component. Like we were just talking about, I was very clear about, hey, the reason I bring up the 6 versus the 12 is because we're just erasing 6 million deaths. Imagine that. And just sitting with that and just letting the weight of that, and knowing that the Holocaust Museum is quoting 6 million, not 12. So that when you're in that museum, you can say, hey, actually, it was 12. I think that there is such power that we have as individuals to speak. And so few of us bother to be accurate in the way that we speak. But we have such power. And Black women, my favorite thing about us is we know this power because we've had our voices taken from us. And so I think the cure is to have accurate conversations, to create spaces where we can have accurate conversations. And realistically, that's what I try to provide in my readings is I try to provide accurate conversations. There are times where there's going to be stuff that comes up that you're not going to like, baby, that you're going to really hate. And you know what? That is okay because we're going to look at everything around it to get through that, to figure out what else we can do for you. And so I think it's so vital that we are having accurate conversations because the government around us and so much around us is literally trying in its way to obfuscate what is truth, obfuscate what a woman is. A woman is a femme who is a woman. If you are doing femme wrong, well, it's pretty obvious. Not that you have to be femme to be a woman, or be a woman to be a femme. That and isn't more complicated. Anytime you're being offered super simple solutions, it's probably bullshit.
I won't tell. I won't, but I'm not gonna edit it respectfully, but we
But
can.
it's true. It's
It is. No, I feel the same way about that because again, that's accurate.
it's
It's accurate that there are simple fixes to certain things in life, drink more water, sleep, eat, and it's accurate that it's always person specific, that there's more things going on that all of this. And I was made me think of the yoga term of accurate self-assessment and just the honesty and the truthfulness of this podcast was originally called True Shit of what is truth, just getting down to the basic or even with the
yeah,
big.
the nitty gritty.
Yep. Yep. When
Oh,
people
well, and it reminds me of sorry, honey.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, I was gonna say, so what is frequently called Maslow's hierarchy of needs is actually, I believe it was the Blackfoot the Blackfoot hierarchy of needs. You mentioned water, rest. These are all baseline needs. They are very simple, they are very straightforward. Now, I think what the problem is culturally that we have as Americans is that we are used to being served up lower to middle needs very regularly, and we never get to these higher needs. We're not taught to get to those higher needs till we get to higher education and to the upper echelons. Self actualization is not offered until these. You know what I mean? And even here, they're actually not here. The funny part is the people who have actual self actualization are Native people, are Latino people, are Black people, because we actually have ours met at home. When not even all of us. So I think that there's like this like we're so used to meeting base to middle line needs that we think that they're met, the upper needs must be met in the same way. No, that's not how that works. It gets more complex as you go up, it gets more intertwined. I had a white man tell me the other day, um, you know, we were actually in bed and he said to me, not everything is connected, Serena. And I said, sweetie, oh you poor thing. Everything is connected thoroughly. You are speaking to a witch. Everything is connected. Everything. No, no, it's not. Yes, yes, it is. And the more the more I just said that simple truth, it was so funny. His voice kept getting louder and louder, and he kept yelling. And I said, "Why are you yelling at me in my home?" And he's like, because you're saying things that aren't that aren't. I said, you can't even say it's not true. I said, you can't even say it to my face because you know it is. You don't like it. And that's really what you're upset about.
I love that composure and grace to be that calm
Ooh, and he got so mad.
because you didn't react back.
And I wasn't trying to make him mad. Actually, I was not trying.
Hey,
Yeah, yeah.
that you were just loving and
You
kind.
okay, darling?
Yes, pardon. There's a outside cat here that was going
Yeah.
on his feet, wiggling around because of the little cat.
Ah, yes. If you ever want to flatter a cat, by the way, if you ever want to flatter a cat, by the way, just call them a daughter or son or child of Bast. They love to be reminded that they were once worshipped as gods.
Noted. I still worship cats. They're definitely the two cats I get to be the human for. I worship them to the best of my abilities. I love that.
Well, I always support that because what were you gonna say? Sorry, darling, I interrupted.
I wanted to go to your story of just how the 10 C's of this podcast are part of the overall sea of connection, that everything's connected, that there's no getting around that basic truth of things. And that story is such a cinematic version of someone coming to grips with that truth of then not even being able to say it's not true because obviously it's all true.
Observably true.
And that the
Yeah, and
like
you
you
know
said,
what?
it's the
I
not
don't,
wanting to accept it.
and that's okay. It's okay to go. I don't like this truth. I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable. Oh, I don't. Oh, I do that all the time. I do that all day long. Some days I'm like, I don't like this truth, and then I have to turn to like, because really it's my inner child. I have to turn to my inner child and go, I know, baby. I don't. You know, you don't gotta like it. You don't gotta like it. Well, I don't. Okay, great, great, great.
Hey,
Do you need a minute with that? Yes, I do. and then and then you get past it because like it's okay. I don't like that I'm living under a fascist regime right now. I am scared. I
same.
am terrified. I am terrified that my housing is under turmoil. I'm terrified. I am so scared of so many things and I need so much help in so many ways. But I have done the spells and the spells will provide. And the way they're going to provide is through people, right? Is through community. We are the magic that we have been wishing for this whole time. And I believe in that magic. I believe in my peoples and I believe in that power. So I can not like being under a fascist regime. I can be angry about it. I can feel these things. And those are valid feelings. And I need to work through those feelings. I'm going to continue to work through those feelings every day. But that doesn't change that I also believe in the magic, the connectivity. And there's something to that, I think.
I can
So
sure.
in the meantime, I'm just going to keep doing what I do and helping other people with their magic and find their magic because it reflects back on me and vice versa. And so, yeah, I peddle my little readings and my charms and my gifts, and I do what I can. And do my spells come true? Absolutely. I've never had one go wrong. Well, that's not true. I've cast the wrong spell before. I've cast the wrong spell before and kicked my own butt. But but generally speaking, I've never really and magic is such an obvious truth to me.
Yes. Oh, I love this. And then such another propaganda that we were ever told that it's not, or that it's woo woo, or the witchery, or the go in the dark and hide because it's wrong. When even the magic of connection, and I love that you brought up that magic is going to come to us through someone else or through another person, and I very much feel and believe that as well.
Well, magic is the connectivity. So the way magic works, let's do a little one-on-one. Little, okay. So I want you to believe for a moment that the entire universe is connected utterly and thoroughly. Okay, we know that. Science has told us that. Matter of fact, science just keeps confirming magical practice, actually. It's a magic, it's a magical web. If I pull on one side of a spider web, does the other side also feel it? It does. We know that. It's obvious, it's observable, right? People don't keep things around that are useless. And black people and brown people are very practical peoples. We do not keep things around that don't work. And yet we kept voodoo and hoodoo and all these other forms of magic around and belief around. And yet it's supposedly useless and fake. Hmm, sounds a little sus to me. The most practical people in the world kept something around that is useless. Okay,
Very, very
sure.
yes, and very manipulative, and another way to diminish someone from their power and their magic and their connection to their community and culture and ancestor and all of it. It's infuriating and
If they
heartbreaking.
can get you to disbelieve, yes, and if they can get you to disbelieve in the connection, well, if they can get you to disbelieve in the energy, they can get you to disbelieve in the connection. If they can get you to disbelieve in the connection, then before you know it, you're going to be acting like Israel is right now. I said what I said.
And oh, I've posted nothing about their actions is aligned with Jewish values or any of a real
Not a fucking thing.
nothing.
Sorry.
Not a fucking thing. I will underscore. Not a fucking thing to say that any of that is within the realm of Judaism. This also might be my neighbor coming home. I have porch permission
Okay,
because of the Wi-Fi, but there might be a small child brigade, a very cute small child brigade. So you know.
that's all right. Well, and here's the thing. If correct me if I'm remembering my Jewish law correctly, we are not supposed to have a homeland until the Messiah returns. That Messiah has not come yet.
Hmm.
And that is, if I recalling my Torah correctly.
To me, no
And
matter what, there's no justification for like there's no anything that could justify all of the actions that they're literally someone could pull out of whatever and it's
none,
still there isn't a justification for violence to me in that. And
none. However, I was going into the high court
you can't and
there,
well, and I
where
think it's interesting and it's relevant and also to me some of that is the same kind of just divisive stuff. Hello. Hello. It's the same kind of divisive like how to have people in fighting within or fighting over other things rather than the bigger picture of that's predatory behavior, that's violence, that is actually just getting to the accurate. Because not that the other stuff is inaccurate there or like those parts
yeah.
are relevant, but
Well, and
the
here's the
base.
thing that gets me is like there. Go ahead. Yes. Well, as I recall, there are cousins. Like, what the hell are we doing to our cousins? Like, uh, just the See, and here's the thing, y'all. I get frustrated too. Like as much as I got the answers, I got the cards right here. I will get frustrated, and it's not like I have all the answers. It's answers to a point, because there is free will. Free will is very real. Fate is also real, and all these things are interconnected, and the way that they play off each other interconnected. So it's really really frustrating sometimes. Though, that's what I'll say.
It is. It is. And it's this thank you for sharing your story gives both a really good microcosm to me of the bigger picture and also is just great humor of somebody sitting with the truth and having a mental breakdown and shutdown about it and the white man being like, oh wait, hold on, it is all connected. Oh my God. Like what the little girls were saying at sleepovers and we like that oh my God, yeah, hold on, and I am hurting myself if I'm hurting someone else, and these basic kindergarten truths are still true, that we're watching that on a bigger scale.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that what everything you needed to truly know about life, you were taught in kindergarten. I know it sounds so funny, but like I thought about a great book idea would be kindergarten for adults
I love
and
this.
starting off with some of the basic concepts and reiterating like, hey, you when you hurt your friend, you hurt you. We can either share or we can have nothing.
Right.
Like these what is good for the least of these is good for the most of these. These these truths are the lowest quote unquote socialized denominator helps everyone.
So,
And yet we pretend like these aren't the truths, don't we?
right? Yes. And then people will talk about some other thing or get caught in the whatever, and it's,
And by we, I mean those who have power, obviously.
yeah, I hear you on that.
So,
It seems like just another bypassing of maybe somebody just needs a nap. Maybe somebody needs to have a third party sit with them and their friend and talk about the dispute. Maybe you need to practice your I feel statements. Like maybe you need to go eat. Are you being mean because you're hungry? Go feed yourself. Like these very I
yeah,
there's a connection here with what you said too, and this connects well with the charge. See, you brought up free will and determinism, and this is one of my favorite topics of things, or favorite. It feels connected, especially to almost with that story of this man having the kind of
oh, you are a Jewish girl. Of course, of course, you grabbed onto fate and
always,
free will.
oh
Of course,
yeah,
of course.
fuck philosophy. I love philosophy. I could go
Well,
on
and our
forever.
ancestors have been debating this.
It's Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, Jew through and through. And I even did the classic Jewish, like rejected after I was bat mitzvah, not right after, but like later into high school was like fuck organized religion and went through that and then came back around and then got into yoga and meditation and had Jewish prayers coming in my head and was like, I can't get away from this,
Yeah,
which is to some of the lack of free will that I was like, I'm sitting here on a cliffside and the Shema prayers in my head right now. Like help what? Hello? I didn't choose
yeah,
this consciously. That it goes into that too,
yeah.
that sitting with
Well,
that truth again, or the accuracy.
yeah. Well, what was your question? I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
It was a very Jewy kind of philosophical question where, okay, I'm seeing some kind of overlap here between the free will determinism debate debacle and the story you shared about the man knowing something was true but still being upset about it, and his like kind of almost like toggling between like his own free will to accept it, but his own, I don't know if you see any kind of like connection there between those stories plus the overall macro
It
of
reminds.
Israel and all of that violence and the same like, can you just can we just sit with this and just like talk? Could we just talk about it maybe?
Yes, we can. I would love to tell a little story actually, and
Okay.
maybe you know this story. This was a story that I was taught, um, and it came from knowing a rabbi actually. And once upon a time, there was a king named King Solomon. Now, you may have heard of him. And
This one I've heard of. This one, because it's not a Christian reference, I've heard of this one.
so, um, King Solomon was friends with the angel of death. And now, the angel of death, she's a cool broad, but she is, she's a little focused. And one King Solomon noticed that his friend was kind of like bummed out. Like all of her eyes were just like, kind of like downtrodden. And, angels are not the most fun to hang out with. Solomon generally preferred demons, but usually death was a little bit more fun. So, anyway, Solomon says, "Oh, Dee Dee, what's going on, girl? Like, do you like, do you need some Visine? What's going on? And Dee was like, girl, listen, like, it's just a lot. Like, since creation, I've been there, just taking souls, reaping souls, taking souls, reaping souls. It gets very, and so King S was like, okay, I feel you, but like, talk to me. And Dee goes, listen, I'm afraid to tell you about it. And King Saul goes, just girl, out. Finally, comes out that King Solomon's two favorite scribes were the ones that Dee Dee had been ordered to take. And Dee Dee was just like beside herself, like any good bestie. And so King Saul said, I feel you. I got you. Let me think on this. And Dee Dee goes, okay, bitch, bye. So she goes, and Dee Dee has to work. She's got a lot to do. So King S says to two of his demon friends, hey, Um, can you guys like transform into horses and then take these two to the city of Azul? Now, I was taught that this was the city of Azul, which means blue. It's like a blue city, I guess, within the gates. No one dies, right? And then, so basically, when people would get tired, they'd come out, you know, and they would go meet death on a bench, and she would take them when it was time, which is kind of a nice tradition, right? But within the city, Death had no jurisdiction, although Dee Dee could go inside the gates, right? Well, so the demon friends go ahead and they take, you know, transform into horses, and they take these two scribes down to the city of Azul. They see the bench. Okay, they see the welcome kiosk. Okay, you know. So they're right outside the gates of Azul. And then both scribes drop dead. Well, the demon horses were like, okay, well, we're not gonna go back to King S and tell him this. So we're gonna like skedaddle for now. Bye. Well, the next day, King S is like, okay, I don't know what happened here, right? And then he's waiting for some news. All of a sudden, of course, Dee Dee walks in and is like, hey, bitch, thank you so much. And King S is like, you're welcome. But Dee Dee, for what? And she goes, well, see, you knew, you're such a good friend. You knew that I was supposed to take the two of those scribes right outside the gates of the city of Blue. And you made that possible. So was that fate or free will?
What does it say to what?
And and what, so was that fate or was that free will?
Hmm.
King S learned a valuable lesson. You can't escape fate, but your free will is innately part of fate.
It's all connected again. It's all connected again. That's
I
why.
think of that story all the time.
Wow, I've never heard that one. I've never.
Isn't it a good one?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I gotta hear it again. I'm gonna go back in this recording and then find a longer version too, because I love that as the response to it, and answering in a story, which I always love. That it's both, that they're connected. That once again, the accuracy is that fate and free will are intertwined, and that that's okay, and that it can be both.
It can be both. And so, yeah. So, what other questions do you have for me, darling?
Mm. If you're open to share about how all these things we talk about help your life or your own, I'd love to hear about, you're talking about all of these guiding other people in ways that you're helping them with their obstacles, and you mentioned spells or different things now, or just how did these practices, or how are these things helping you with your own obstacles, and also how can, besides how this could promote the readings, how can this podcast, both this episode and generally, how can it help with with that? And first, let's start with whatever you'd like to share about your own personal stuff.
Well, I'll, s- I'll say this. To give medicine is to get medicine. I learned so much of myself from helping others. And
Oh.
it is through the act of helping others that I get seen, I get heard. That also, can I be honest, that people interact with a trans person, a black person, a Jewish person, you know, someone that has all these intersecting identities, and they realize, oh, that's possible. And they can realize, oh, she's a human, and she's like me, and she can tell a story, and she can cook a mean albondigas, right? It is through the act of giving that we receive. And do I take payment for it? Yes, of course. Of course I do. Because I deserve to be compensated for the skills that I am practicing. However, I am fair in that compensation and I give more than I get. And and then I get again when the community shows up. Like when I was um getting my FFS treatment, which is facial feminization, and I had someone here for every shift. Someone from the community showed up for every shift. It touched me that I meant that much to anybody, but that I meant that much to someone was and is incredibly humbling.
Your microphone got,
And oh,
or maybe it's on the bottom,
to
something I,
mean that much to anybody. Oh, can you hear me? Is that better?
Mhm.
Okay. I was saying that to mean that much to anybody is so meaningful, but to mean that much to so many is very humbling. And it was an act of receiving that was actually really hard because I was healing and I'm used to being in the position of healer. So, but I needed to be in the position of healing. And so it it helps me to give and it helps me to receive. And it is all connected all over again. I can't say it enough over and over and over because that is the truth. And I think people will be attracted to getting a reading from me because of who I am. I think that it is, if they know they can feel safe, heard, felt seen, right? Then that's what people want out of someone who's providing counsel. Like they want someone who can listen, see them, and also give advice that is accurate and no bullshit.
you said
Because I
Jessica.
feel like so
Yeah.
many readers nowadays are so I shouldn't I shouldn't say that, but many readers today believe that they have to be something that they're not. That's
Just,
all I'll say on
that's heartbreaking. And then that's the accuracy you brought up that I was thinking right as you said it, of how much we're all looking for that accurate being seen and just that base truth of knowing we're loved and cared about. And I'm so glad to hear that you had that consistent support of a whole community. And it's so real that for healers to be the one receiving healing is the most challenging of all of the things, in a way that, yeah, humbling is the perfect word for it. And you did it and you let it happen. And I also love your first response of pointing out the that cycle of how much you're giving and receiving at the same time all the time. And it's
yeah.
all connect. It's not gonna ever be
So,
one or the other because it's all connected.
which I get so tired of saying that, but it's just, it needs to be said so many times, especially with what's going on right now.
I relate to both of those parts, like the reminders to breathe or eat or whatever things. It's like, oh, I'm such a broken record, and also I'm forgetting it just as many times a day that everything's connected, that I need that many reminders of it too, that it helps to step out of that imposter syndrome, I feel like also, or that wanting to cling to like, oh, free will or fate, or oh, this, or oh, that, or any kinds of internal debates of things, and remember
Mhm.
that base human connection.
I heard an interesting thing about imposter syndrome recently.
What'd you hear?
And it's so true because for those who don't know, I have an adopted daughter who is white, and I am not white. And she experiences imposter syndrome. So I went looking for what causes imposter syndrome. And then I heard a white man talk about it. And he said, well, of course we have imposter syndrome. We're imposters. And I said, huh? And he goes,
Oh,
well, listen, we are colonizers. We are not supposed to be on this land. We are taking all the jobs at all the highest points. In order for enough people to fill those to where people of color who are more qualified, who've had to work harder, who have all these experiences that are enriching, not to take it, well, we have to be imposters.
wow. That's such a good
And
point in this, which goes back to your story again of the accurate truth. Keep
it's
going.
true.
It's the same
Well,
thing.
because I don't experience imposter syndrome. I know what I can do and I know what I can't do. And if I can't do something, I know I can find someone to teach me or partner with me so I can learn it.
Yep.
I never feel like an imposter. I've never felt that. But I don't have the luxury to feel it, number one. And number two, I don't have anything given to me that isn't earned and earned hard, earned six times over. By the end of that, your imposter syndrome or what would it would be is worn off.
So many good points in there.
So like I realized like with my kiddo, and it's so funny because talked to another white person about this, and they said the more I decolonize, the less imposter syndrome I have, showing that decolonization is not just for us, but actually for the person themselves.
Such a succinct saying so much of decolonizing your mind is helping everyone, and especially white people, and especially that white person imposter syndrome and all of it. Wow.
Well, to be honest, I think brown and black people are in a better position than white people. And what I mean by that is this, like, we have everything we truly need. Everything white people want, we have.
Which is
They
probably
had a,
the base, not probably, like there's studies that show that's the base of any kind of abusive and predatory behavior, is that jealousy, that wanting what someone else has, that I'm going to be
yeah.
violent because I'm a little kid on the playground, except for now with guns and with all the other of,
Well, that's the ironic thing, isn't it? Is like, it's not like we took it from them. We didn't. We just kept ours. That's why they keep trying to take it from us. They gave up theirs.
hmm, how
That's
did they
the only
find
way it can be taken from you is of free will
it? Okay. How do they find it again then?
by decolonizing. Put down your
Or
whiteness.
accuracy, coming back to accuracy again.
Put down your whiteness
Oh, the mic cut out. You said put down your whiteness and then a drop.
and pick up your indigeneity.
Mm.
Get to know who your ancestors were. They'll show you what to do.
I just got all warm, fuzzy goosebumps.
And on that note, my mic is about to die, so I think we should probably go, my darling. But it was a wonderful, wonderful um, little sit down.
It was.
And
Thank
do
you.
you have any other questions before I go?
I'll message you to make sure I get all the links and stuff in the description here. So all good on that. Thank you for
Okay.
making the time and for going into all of these things and diving right into history and magic and all of it. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Good one. Bye.